Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are pleased, as always, to have our frequent guests on the show from San Diego Gives. We've got Lauren Welch, she's the director of San Diego Gives, and Sharon Goodson, fiscal sponsor. Impact Cubed, and of course with Leash Tag Foundation, Vice President of Philanthropy, and Lauren is Development Director for Urban Core of San Diego County. And these two women just kill it on many different stages, and one of them is with San Diego Gives. So always good to have you folks back on and now talk about some of the results. Very, very cool. Lauren, I'll start with you. Are you happy with how this edition went?
Yeah, it was a pretty incredible year for the amount of growth from year one to year. I don't know when you want us to give numbers, but it feels very like a drum roll. But yeah, the year went really great.
Well, went from if I'm not mistaken, 119 organizations the first year, was 118, with 119 somewhere in that area, to 327 in the 2022 edition, and had a goal of significantly raising more money for those nonprofits. And here is the drum roll, and who very, very good. I'll defer to you, Lauren, if you want to give that figure.
Sure. We just got some final numbers because we had some donations that came in like over the past week. And so we raised $1,088,647 from 3,743 unique donors. So that's over double. I mean, I don't know that I've done the math on exactly how much more that is. I probably should. But over double what we made last year.
No, I think that's fantastic. And, there were so many different moving parts this year, as we talked about leading up to it. Really kicked off in July on the birthday of San Diego, and people could give up until September the 8th. And we encourage people, don't wait till September the 8th. You can go ahead and donate anytime in between. And Sharon, were you happy how that whole process worked this year?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great. We had a lot of energy, and I think, there's a lot of good stuff to build on for next year.
Right, exactly. And, you started a San Diego Gives University with this and giving different advice on how you can market your nonprofit and everything in between. I'll start with you on that, Lauren, and then we'll toss over to Sharon on her thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can give you some more numbers too while I've got it up in front of me.
Please.
We offered 28 workshops through the San Diego Gives University, and more than 533 people came to those activities, and that's unduplicated. So that would be thousands of people who came in general to everything. So that was hugely, we're doing a lot of nonprofit feedback surveys right now. And the word we're getting is that's incredibly helpful. Again, not only to the building of their profile and their campaign for the actual San Diego Gives itself, but to their capacity building as nonprofits, and getting to learn, especially smaller nonprofits who get to learn something new that they, that they wouldn't be able to pay for or find on their own.
Well, and I think you'd agree on this one too, Lauren and Sharon, is the fact that, okay, now these learnings don't stop on September 8th. Okay, I'm going to be using these September 9 until we kick this thing off in year 3 in mid-July. Talk about that, Sharon, how important that is, that taking these learnings and moving it throughout the whole year.
Yeah, for sure. We're looking at San Diego Gives being more than just the day of giving, just exactly as you said, Drew, that it really is a year-long program. And we're spending a lot of time with nonprofits, even when they register and they start learning then, and we'll be starting workshops, in a few months as well. And they use these skills for the San Diego Gives campaign, but for other work that they're doing also, because the knowledge is really transferable.
Well, it is, and of course, we all know this different because of the space that all three of us are in. It's all about communications, and it's all about repeating communications and repeating it once, twice, 40,000 times, and that's really what it takes to do, and that's exactly what you folks had done on this. Lauren, let me ask you this, and then you jump in on this too, Sharon. So, was there anything that really surprised you that okay, we're obviously going to up this from 119 nonprofits to 327, and we're offering a university, San Diego Gives University as well. But is it something that we could say, boy, that really surprised us, either good or bad? We'll start with you on this, Lauren.
I think we just had a celebration on Monday. We're sad that you weren't there with us, Drew, but you were there in spirit.
I was.
Yeah, we had the celebration. I think the just biggest surprise for me, and maybe this is a cop out, and Sharon's got to think of something better, but it's just how much growth not only in the growth of nonprofits and the growth of money, of course, is important in fundraising, but the growth of just in general of the day itself. I mean, the starting of our San Diego Gives, a Live Local, Give Local podcast, to the trademarking, to the San Diego Gives being produced in the first place and being so successful. I think it just makes me not nervous. It makes me excited and nervous at the same time. Like, what are we going to do year 3 then, right? Because we had such huge growth from 1 to 2. It's and Sharon and I have already started, Drew. We've already started the planning for actually the Saturday after. We were having brunch and talking about 2023 already. So they're already in the mix.
Well, you guys know better than anybody, especially the space you're in, and you guys are the poster child, at Leash Tag Foundation. That you literally the event's over, and then within 15 seconds you're starting the next year event. And that's what you have to do. And of course, and I think one of the things that's great about what both you folks have done is certainly, outside of San Diego Gives, and San Diego Gives is going to be a poster child for this. It's all about continuous improvement. And, we know whether you're a for-profit or nonprofit, but, Sharon, talk about how critical that is, that people just keep on thinking that was great, but how do we get better? How important that builds the capacities of these very important nonprofits in our community.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I think, it's really important. And I think one of the biggest, I don't know if it's a surprise, but it was really, I guess, a confirmation that, how much the nonprofits seem to want to be in community with one another, and we've seen that in other things that we've done. But it really came true with, or the concept was proven, yet further with San Diego Gives University and the whole campaign, because, there are other places where they could get, a few classes, here and there. This was, it was a good crowdfunding campaign for sure, but they are also making money in other ways for their organizations. But I think this feeling of belonging, and that they're all together, kind of part of a movement. I think it's really strong, especially for some of these really small nonprofits, like Lauren said, that, I think for the big guys, we take for granted that, sure, we see each other in the same meetings and all of that, but there are some that are just doing this really fantastic work on their own.
Yeah, that's so true. We're chatting with Sharon Goodson, fiscal sponsor of San Diego Gives and VP of Philanthropy for Leash Tag Foundation and Impact Good, joined by her colleague Lauren Welch, the director of San Diego Gives, among other things that you can lay claim for, and now co-host of this really cool podcast. We'll get to that in a few seconds over here. But you bring up something really important. Sharon, I've been honored to be doing this Spotlight in the Community, show since 2007, believe it or not. And, one of the, themes has always been 1 + 1 better equal 8 in this era. We've been talking about this, and didn't just start in 2007. It started probably in, 1907 or 1807. But you brought up something really important, is that heaven forbid when we row together, that how it picks up everybody. And that might sound so obvious, But it doesn't always happen that way, Sharon. And when people say that I don't need to compete with the San Diego Food Bank, I need to work with them, or pick a topic. And Lauren, I know that's what San Diego Gives is all about. Talk about that.
Yeah, I was just, you were saying that, thinking about, again, we're going through we asked for donor surveys and nonprofit surveys, going to kind of aggregate all that data next week to look at, answers and what to do differently for next year. But a lot of what I'm reading, because I'm reading through each one of them as I get it, and we're getting a lot of, not only did we raise funds that we wanted, whether we met or exceeded a goal or didn't, even those that didn't, it's like we didn't meet our fundraising goal, but we made partnership with these nonprofits we didn't know. And I now have a CRM, a fundraising database, because the database we use for San Diego Gives, you can use year round. So you paid $50 to join San Diego Gives. Now you have access to this database, which a lot of small nonprofits might not have because they don't have the funding to do so. And so just being able to hear people talk outside of the box, right? The box is fundraising for sure. But outside of that is, I never would have learned that or been connected to that person or known that nonprofit or got that new volunteer. And so it's just really great to be able to support in that way and it not just be money based, right? And that's it. And that it's just about money in, money out. Let's move on. It's really about relationship and long-term investment and partnership and being able to build their capacity and build what they can do, right, in their mission. And that's just really cool to be able to support a holistic look instead of just singular.
Well, and again, you guys know this as well, but a lot of people don't. And certainly, I think it's certainly more important. I think, at least from my perspective, in the nonprofit world, is relationships and partnerships are just absolutely critical. And I'm not saying they're not important in the for-profit world, but they're definitely in the nonprofit world. And Joan, was what you were saying, Sharon. Folks that may have $500 for their marketing budget for the year. Someone goes, well, who the heck has that? I said, well, you must not know the nonprofit world because that may be their marketing budget or that's their office supply budget for the year. And Sharon, so now, and you said something really interesting too, Lauren, and I know, Sharon, this is all in your DNA and, of course, the Leashtag Foundations as well, is, listen, you may not have those numbers in year one, but you've got people. And now you're going to have people times two, and the numbers will grow up. And that's what you got to worry about. Those, making sure you're making those connections. And Sharon, talk about how important that was with San Diego Gives. You guys sort of alluded to it earlier.
Right. No, I mean, it's all about the relationship. And this is what we also, it's the core of a lot of the training that we provide to nonprofits and that we have to remind ourselves about all the time is that, the most successful and productive fundraising is done person to person, and even if you're submitting a grant application and it seems like kind of an anonymous process, the likelihood of success is going to be a lot higher if you know the organization, the funder. And the same is true, with any of this. It's, coming back now for a third year, we've built a lot of trust among the nonprofits. We built a lot of trust among our sponsors, of which you guys are one, and we thank you so much for that.
Of course.
And and the donors, that they could see that, maybe especially if crowdfunding wasn't, online giving wasn't really their cup of tea or they didn't have experience with it, they could see that it was a safe way to give and that it's, it's kind of something that is becoming pretty common. So we just, building on that trust is definitely going to give us more success.
Yeah, without question. When we come back from break, we're going to continue the conversation with Sharon Goodson, fiscal sponsor of San Diego Gives and the VP of Philanthropy for the Leashtag Foundation and Impact Cubed, joined by the director of San Diego Gives, the inimitable Lauren Welch, full of energy and very, very cool things. We're going to come and talk about the Live Local, Give Local podcast. I know we're very proud of of it at Cloudcast, and we're pretty excited where it's going to go. And then some ideas of you guys, your heads are already spinning on what 2023 will look like when we come back to Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show here with Cloudcast Media, sponsored by Mission Fed Credit Union. We'll be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and you are listening to Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show here at Mission Fed Credit Union Studio in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed been doing great things for San Diegans since 60 years old now, my goodness. Lauren, we were talking about this new podcast series, Live Local, Give Local. Talk about that.
Yeah, I was just thinking when I posted that first episode last week, because we dropped episode 0 on Thursday of San Diego Gives last week and on the 8th. And I had a friend on Facebook be like, wait, you have a podcast? So I mean, it's just a really cool, like, no way. Like, I don't know about you, Drew, but it like leveled up. Like I leveled up like in a video game or something. But I'm sure you get the same. But yeah, we are just really excited. We recorded for September and had Alliance Healthcare Foundation, one of our sponsors, on about her relationship to San Diego Gives and San Diego Gives University and her interest in how Alliance Healthcare aligns with that. We had some nonprofits who participated on one of them, and we had some volunteers from our steering committee talking about their involvement. So the goal for the podcast itself is just really involvement in San Diego Gives and how the campaign and how the university and how the workings of it support the work you're doing or align with the work that you're doing. And so one of the cool things with these donor surveys is I'm getting back these surveys about why you gave and why you chose who you gave to. And those are going to become hopefully some really great podcast guests on the show to talk about why they chose, who they chose and how their heart is aligned to that. And so we're just really excited to be able to share stories of San Diego Gives outside of, what Sharon and I talk about, which is, again, the stories of donors, the stories of sponsors, and the stories of nonprofits, and how really the goal being how San Diego Gives as a campaign, like it says, has helped your business or the work that you do and elevated it. So super excited.
Yeah, it's all about storytelling, and that seemed to be a word that we're using a lot more now in the 21st century, or at least in the first 22 years. You hear people talk about storytelling a lot, which I love to hear because that's all podcasts, or good podcasts, I should say, are about storytelling. And this, Sharon, and especially you do too, Lauren, on the work you do. In the other nonprofits, but with you with the foundation, it's telling about a story. And Leashtag is just so well known that you want to support those organizations that can tell a story. Talk about that.
Right. Well, we've seen when you can tell a story, you really bring to life the experience for somebody. And it's one thing, you can be really impressive with statistics and other facts, et cetera. But if you can really engage someone in the story of your work, gosh, it's just so much more powerful.
Yeah, it is, and that's what these podcasts, as you see, almost everybody and their brother wants to do one these days, and that's fine. Sometimes it's a little easier said than done on that. We're proud that we've been doing this for a while, and you get the right vibe. And Lauren, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out my longtime friend and colleague, Dave Mason, who was involved with your podcast, and Dave and I have been working together for a million years, and the guy's the best in so many different ways, and what a great way to work with him, and I know he's enjoying working with you guys as well. But that it makes a big difference, in that aspect. And I think the 327 folks that were a part of this year's edition of San Diego Gives, they're going to love to have their voice shared, and maybe it'll inspire them to do their own podcasts. And we tell people, if you do it right, the constituents that support you, and you guys know this better than anybody, is that that's why they're with you. There's something that has been a connection, because as you were talking about sharing that, that story. So I'll start with you on this one, Lauren, and then we'll pivot over to Sharon. So just any 80,000-foot things that you think might be a little different with 2023, or we're not quite there yet?
I like Sharon's giggle with that. I do want to share too, before I start, Drew, just your note about Dave. And I, because I didn't know Dave really until next week. Until last week we met for the podcast, really. And we spent 3 hours recording, podcasts. And afterwards, him and I were sitting in the lobby, and he said, I just don't like these, like he just was really just overwhelmed with who was on the show and their stories on the show, which is just really impactful to me and inspiring to the direction we're going for somebody who knows it so well. So that was just really great. And then somebody at the studio said, that, oh my gosh, I was drawn to it and listening every second, like she was just waiting for what was said next. So again, speaks to hopefully what we'll be able to do over the next year. But 2023 plans, high level plans, we're, I think, looking at more San Diego Gives University opportunities, more the expansion of classes offered, expansion of what and how, again, based on our experience plus the nonprofits' response to their experiences, and just trying to look outside the box on opportunities to draw donors in and ways to do that, or places to do that, or that, because year one was just let's go do it. Year two was let's spread out and do it in different ways and involve other people. So again, it's, what did we not hit up this year? Could hit up more next year. Sharon, I don't know if that's my 80,000 feet, Drew.
Good. Sharon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I agree 100%. I think, there are definitely pockets of the community that we didn't hit quite yet. We heard from some donors that, they would love more information about giving through their donor advised funds, through our local community foundations, or through their brokerage accounts, which we definitely have the capacity to do through San Diego Gives. And this was new for us this year. And there's just a lot more that everybody can learn about that. And in order to, again, feel comfortable, in the process, and just seeing that this project adds a lot of value to the whole community.
Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't point this out again. We're chatting with Lauren Welch, Director of San Diego Gives, and joined by her colleague, Sharon Goodson, fiscal sponsor for San Diego Gives and VP of Philanthropy for the Leach-Tech Foundation and Impact Cubed. You folks vetted these 327 organizations. And when you do that, there's a bit of confidence that, okay, if I'm going to give to these guys, that they're doing things on the up and up, and they're not breaking any 1099 rules or anything in between, and so forth. And that's a lot of work on your end, but it gives them confidence of donors, whether they're giving $100 or $1,000 or more to do that. And so really kudos to you folks. I know that's obviously, definitely in the DNA of Leach-Tech Foundation, of course, but, why wouldn't you not do that aspect of it? Do you think, though, and listen, we're only, a couple weeks after September 8th, but would you want to cap how many organizations are involved? Just because, I mean, what do we have in San Diego? 8,000 nonprofits, depending on what study you're looking at, right? It varies. Look at the USD Nonprofit Institute; they'll say X, and Leash Tag may say Y, and Foundation may say Z. But Lauren, do you think that's a point that you and Sharon will say we really need to cap it at a certain amount?
Not discussions we've had. And I just want to clarify real quick, Drew. It's not been 2 weeks. It's been 8 days.
Oh, is that 8 days? That's right. I can't add. I can't add. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we have not had any discussions of capping. I'm looking at Sharon because it's one of those things like ESP, if we can figure out each other. But there was no discussion of capping last year. And we had, of the many, many lists of things to start working on this year, that has not been a part of that discussion either. So, not for now, I don't think. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good. It means you have the capacity to do it when you get 3,000 people that want to participate in this. And of course, you just fainted. But that's But listen, you guys are doing this the right way, obviously, and you got a lot of experience in this space. So I think that helps a lot. It's not like you first dipped your foot into nonprofits, to say the least. That makes a big deal in this area. And you had mentioned before there were some areas you talked about. I think you're spot on that, Sharon. Donor advised funds can get a little tricky, in this area. There's some, discussion on, well, how come you can't give because it's a donor advised fund? That stuff confuses me a little bit, being on a bunch of nonprofits, and I can't seem to get a straight answer on that. But I think that'll be great too. So, San Diego Gives, University, is it continuing as we speak?
We stopped for the moment. And we'll start up again after the new year, probably February-ish.
All of the classes that we did in 2022 are up and on the website and can be video played back. So technically, nothing new.
Right.
But go back and look at many of old.
Right. Right. So not really a soft launch of 2023, but maybe it is to some extent that you'll have, getting ready for the official launch. And I'm assuming you'll do again on San Diego City's birthday, maybe not, but, are you guys going to consider having a different start date, or you're not sure yet?
I'm going to go with definitely not sure on that yet.
Okay.
We're not.
We know September 7th will be next year.
Okay.
That's Thursday. So we've put that out into the world that will be for next year. But right now we're working on a lot of things like new timelines and budgets. And like I said, San Diego Gives, when does it start and what does it include? And really just shutting out we're starting to look for new grants and new sponsors for sure, doing that early this year to capitalize as much as we can. And then just start looking at the foundation and what the steering committee and volunteers, kind of that process looks like for next year. I think we are going to open registration a month early and close it a month early next year. So that gives us one less month to do things on the front end. So, so that's what we've got so far.
Yeah, well, pretty exciting. I know you're still getting a lot of feedback from people, and whatever we can do at Cloudcast Media to add to that feedback, we're never afraid to throw our 2 cents in. You can give us change back if you'd like, but it's all good. You guys make me smile every time I see you on the show, and it's great content. And wishing you nothing but terrific success moving forward. I know I'll be honored to be on one of your shows coming up.
I'm excited
in November. Hopefully that won't be a downturn in how many listeners, but we'll see what happens there. And Sharon, I'm excited to interview a week from today.
Yeah,
that'll be.
I think just thoughts and shutdown is that and close out is what I just had real quick is that. If people are listening and want to be involved next year and weren't involved in 2022, the best way to do that is to go to our website. There's a contact us form, which adds them to our email list, which is where information will go out. And one of the things we had in the donor feedback forms, a lot of people saying, oh, next year you should add this nonprofit or that one. So they should do that. They should add themselves. And so, the best way to communicate right now for next year is through that contact us form for sure. Then that's, of course, at Drew. that's at sandiegogives.org.
Yeah, there you go. Very, very good. Well, listen, always good to chat with you folks, and we'll continue this conversation moving forward. We'll love to take a look at the Live Local, Give Local podcast. That'll continue to bring some great info, and then again, looking forward to chatting with you next Friday, Sharon, and wish you both very relaxing, hopefully weekends, and catch your breath, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Drew. Thanks, Charles. Thanks, Drew.
Okay, you're so welcome. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and you've been listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show here at the Mission Fed Studios in Scripps Ranch. Hope you enjoyed our latest edition. Goodbye.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.